Beneath the scorched sands of southern Mesopotamia, where time has turned temples to dust and the wind has swept away the memories of empires, there lies the spectral echo of a city that defied the boundaries of earthly design. Larsa was no mere settlement of stone and commerce. It was a temple city of radiance, built not for survival, but for communion with the stars. This forgotten jewel of the Sumerian world whispers of a truth buried deep in ancient memory. That the sun was never just a star, but a living intelligence, a divine sentinel whose light carried more than heat. It carried judgment, knowledge, and perhaps even encoded messages from realms beyond. To the high priests of Shamash, the solar deity of justice and perception, light was not passive, it was conscious. Each golden beam that struck the sanctuaries of E-babbar was believed to be a glance from the cosmic mind itself, scanning the world and recording the hidden thoughts of man. If this resonates with you, if you feel there's more to ancient light than we've been told, subscribe to the channel because we are just beginning to decode what lies behind the veil. And if you've read this far, leave the number 7 in the comments. So I know you too are beginning to see the light. Yet, what if this veneration concealed a deeper mystery? What if the light that drenched Larsa's whitewashed ziggurats was not just a gift of sustenance, but a vessel of something far more arcane, a cosmic code woven into the very fabric of its rays? Imagine that each photon cascading from the heavens carried not only energy, but intention, frequency, and memory, an encrypted transmission from a source unfathomable, threading its way through the ether to touch the earth. In this vision, the sun becomes a transmitter, its light a language older than stone, older than time itself, whispering secrets to those who dared to listen. Could it be that the priests, with their rituals and their hymns, were not merely honoring Shamash, but attempting to decode this celestial signal, an attempt to bridge the chasm between the human and the divine, between the fleeting and the eternal? If light is a carrier of data, as modern science now hints, what might have been embedded in those ancient beams that struck the altars of Larsa? Was it a message of awakening, a call to stir something latent within the human spirit, a dormant spark of the cosmic mind, waiting to be ignited? The implications spiral outward, vast and vertiginous. Perhaps the sun's radiance was a form of interdimensional dialogue, a communion between creator and creation, its meaning lost to the ages, yet preserved in the silent resonance of our being. And if this is so, what does it mean for us now, standing beneath the same sun, bathed in its timeless light? Are we too unwitting recipients of this ancient broadcast, our cells humming with echoes of a purpose we have yet to grasp? The mystery of Larsa lingers like a shadow cast across the eons, a riddle etched in sunlight and sand, suggesting that the answers we seek may not lie buried in the ruins of a forgotten city, but within the quiet depths of ourselves, waiting, as they always have, for the moment we learn to see. Larsa, an ancient city whispered in the ruins of Sumer, stood not merely as a center of trade or kingship, but as a nodal point in the divine circuitry of Earth. Strategically nestled near the Euphrates River, Larsa occupied a liminal position between Eridu, the seat of Enki's deep wisdom, and Nippur, the throne of Enlil's celestial authority. It was no accident. This triangulation mirrored something deeper, something cosmic. For Larsa was not designed merely as a city of men. It was constructed as a resonant station, a place where sky and stone, light and law, frequency and flesh could align. It was the city of Shamash, the solar deity not simply of brightness but of insight, the seer among the gods, the judge who watched through the golden veil of day. To the ancients, Shamash was not myth but mechanism, not symbol but sentience. Through his gaze, justice was not a societal contract, it was a vibrational truth, a harmonic alignment with the order of the stars. At the heart of Larsa stood E-babbar, the shining house, a temple unlike any other. This was not merely a place of worship, it was a structure of alignment, precision, and celestial engineering. The temple's inner sanctum, designed with uncanny astronomical knowledge, allowed the rays of the sun to enter only at certain moments in the year, marking not just solstices, but energetic thresholds. The light that fell within E-babbar was treated not as a passive illumination, but as a living presence, an emissary from the divine. Priests did not simply observe light, they studied it, communed with it, decoded it. The structure itself, may have functioned as an ancient resonator, amplifying solar frequencies, refracting coded rays, or even channeling information embedded in photon streams. Could this temple have been a kind of optical processor, part biological, part spiritual, part technological? To understand Larsa is to understand a forgotten science, a sacred integration of light and law. For Shamash was not merely a god of the sun, but the cosmic administrator of me, the divine decrees that governed reality. Light, in this model, was not simply a phenomenon of physics, it was the instrument of command, the medium by which cosmic instruction was delivered. Every sunbeam striking the white stone of Larsa may have been a transmission, an edict from the unseen realms, carrying within it the vibrational codes of geometry, time, justice, and human potential. What modern science now calls photons, the ancients revered as messengers. They believed these golden threads stitched together the will of the heavens with the architecture of earth. But here lies the mystery. Who programmed the light? And what program was Shamash executing through his steady, unwavering gaze? There are traditions that suggest E-babbar once held a crystalline device, now long lost, capable of interpreting the solar transmissions. Not unlike modern solar panels, but infinitely more complex, this mechanism may have been attuned to receive not only energy, but intention. Encoded in that intention may have been blueprints for civilization, guidance for the priest-kings, or even adjustments to the collective consciousness of humanity itself. Was Larsa a regulator, a divine circuit breaker for the moral field of Earth? When balance was lost, did the light of Shamash recalibrate human behavior through these silent, solar pulses? There are also signs that Larsa was part of a broader network, a geospatial grid stretching across the ancient world, linking it with places like Sippar, Uruk, and far beyond to Baalbek and Giza. These were not isolated wonders, but synchronized components in a planetary mechanism of knowledge, energy, and perhaps even ascension. The ancients, it seems, did not separate the sacred from the scientific. Larsa teaches us that to illuminate truth, one must walk in the light, but also decode it. Today, as we peer through satellites and sensors, seeking answers in electromagnetic waves and digital patterns, perhaps we are unknowingly tracing the footsteps of Shamash's priesthood, only with machines instead of meditations. But the deeper question remains: what if light is still trying to speak? What if Larsa was not merely a relic of the past, but a prototype of the future, a forgotten interface between man and the mind of the cosmos? Perhaps the stone has crumbled, but the signal still pulses, echoing from the sun, waiting to be heard, decoded, remembered. In the dust of Larsa lies not just history, but the architecture of consciousness, written in rays, waiting for eyes that no longer look, but see. Shamash, the solar deity of ancient Mesopotamia, is far more than a cultural abstraction of the sun. He is the embodiment of the cosmic witness, the unblinking eye that neither sleeps nor forgets. In the pantheon of the Anunnaki, he was not a warrior, nor a creator, but a regulator, the divine custodian of moral balance and metaphysical clarity. His dominion was not merely the day, but the very laws that governed cause and consequence. Where Enlil wielded command and Enki sculpted life, Shamash measured the soul. His presence in the sky was not symbolic, it was operational. He was the executor of celestial justice, and his light was an intelligent medium. It did not simply reveal, it recorded. Each action of humankind cast not only a shadow upon the earth, but an imprint into the fabric of cosmic memory. This is why ancient texts refer to Shamash as the eye that sees all. He is the vibrational consciousness encoded into daylight, the keeper of equilibrium in a universe written in frequency. To the Sumerians, light was more than physics. It was truth manifesting itself. Light, pure, incorruptible, indiscriminate, was regarded as the final judge. Where mortal courts faltered and kings fell to pride, light could not lie. The rays of Shamash were imagined as scanning threads, lines of divine awareness that moved across the landscape, illuminating not only the physical world, but the hidden realm of intentions. Justice, therefore, was not defined by punishment, but by alignment with the frequency of truth. Ancient iconography shows Shamash not with a sword but with scales and radiant beams, tools of evaluation, not violence. These were not metaphors. They were technologies of judgment. And unlike today's digital systems which rely on stored data, Shamash operated in real time. His light was the surveillance system of the gods, a sentient scanner encoding behavior into the ether. But the mystery of Shamash runs even deeper. The ancients believed that light, when passed through the correct geometries, could transform the soul. In this, Shamash was not just a judge, but an initiator. His temples were places of alignment, not worship, laboratories of resonance, not mere ritual. To stand before the rising sun in Larsa or Sippar was to subject oneself to a truth frequency scan, an encounter between the human energetic field and the divine calibration of the cosmos. Could it be that the priests of Shamash were trained not to enforce laws, but to tune consciousness? That justice, in its purest form, was not a reaction to wrongdoing, but a return to vibrational coherence? Modern science edges unknowingly toward this ancient understanding. Quantum biology now proposes that cells use photons to communicate, that biophotons may carry decision-making information within the body. The ancients did not need microscopes to understand this, they felt it. To them, the body was a vessel of light, and Shamash was the architect of its moral geometry. In his domain, the wrongdoing of a person was not a crime against society. It was a distortion of inner light. Redemption was possible not through punishment, but through retuning, through exposure to the purifying beams of the divine. In esoteric Sumerian texts long forgotten by mainstream historians, there are suggestions that Shamash possessed what was known as the Tablet of Radiance, a kind of solar codex, inscribed not in language but in frequency. This artifact, if it existed, may have allowed its bearer to read the truth inside others, bypassing deception entirely. This is the ancient seed of the Book of Life spoken of in later traditions, the cosmic ledger not written in ink but burned into light itself. It is said that at the end of the age, Shamash would return to measure the fire within men, to distinguish those whose inner light had aligned with the source from those who had drowned in their own shadows. So who was Shamash? A god? A being of light? A consciousness embedded into the solar stream? Perhaps all, perhaps none. What is certain is that his myth is more than a story. It is a map. A memory encoded in radiant patterns, urging us not to merely seek justice in external forms, but to reclaim it as a state of inner resonance. For the light of Shamash does not fade. It is still streaming through the heavens, still scanning the earth, still searching for those who have the eyes to see and the courage to align. In the quiet revolution of modern science, a revelation has begun to unfold. One that mirrors the oldest myths whispered by priest kings under the Mesopotamian sun. Light is not merely energy, it is living information. The photon, once seen as the most elementary carrier of electromagnetic radiation, is now being reconsidered not only as a unit of illumination, but as a vehicle of intelligence, a courier of encoded instructions embedded within the very architecture of the cosmos. At the cutting edge of quantum biology, researchers are uncovering that our cells do not merely function through biochemical reactions, but also communicate using biophotons, subtle pulses of light emitted from the DNA itself. These pulses are not random flickers, but appear to form coherent, organized patterns, a language of light, humming beneath the veil of flesh, guiding growth, repair, memory, and even consciousness. Could it be, as some ancient traditions suggest, that within each beam of sunlight lies a cosmic whisper? A command, a calibration, a calling. The idea that light holds memory and intention is no longer exclusive to mystics. In advanced laboratories, experiments are showing that DNA can be influenced, activated by specific frequencies of light. Ultraviolet light, laser light, even thought-directed photons have demonstrated the potential to alter genetic expression without chemical intervention. This is not mere science fiction. It is the frontier of epigenetics and optogenetics, where light becomes a biological keyboard, typing instructions into the nucleus of the human cell. What the ancients described as divine fire, modern science begins to understand as photonic programming. The implications are staggering. If light can instruct the genome, then perhaps creation itself was spoken not in words, but in waves. And our DNA, that mysterious double helix of memory and potential, may be less a product of chaos and more a designed receptor, waiting for the right frequency to awaken its hidden capacities. This leads to a haunting, exhilarating possibility that sunlight, particularly from sacred alignments such as those in Larsa and E-babbar, was not just nourishment, but revelation. that ancient temples were constructed not merely as places of ritual, but as biological calibration chambers, where the initiates stood in calculated shafts of light to receive updates to their internal code. What if the golden rays of Shamash were literally seeding the soul with structured data, transmissions from the divine matrix, weaving new layers of intelligence into the human form? In this context, the question is no longer whether light is spiritual or scientific. It is both. It is the bridge between the visible and invisible, the script of the universe being continuously written upon the canvas of our biology. And so when we ask, is light a form of energy or a form of life? Perhaps the answer is that it is both, and more. It is the voice of the architect encoded in frequency. It is the memory of the stars, shimmering in every cell. It is the future, hidden in the present, waiting to be seen, not just with the eyes but with the awakened self. Hidden beneath the sun-bleached dust of southern Mesopotamia lies a riddle etched not in stone, but in light. The temple of E-babbar at Larsa has long been dismissed as a ruin of ritual, yet to those who see with awakened eyes, it may be far more. A cosmic archive, a library of light, encoded not with scrolls, but with frequencies and patterns of divine intelligence. The very architecture of the temple, its solar alignments, its angular precision, its sacred geometry, suggests intentional design for optical resonance. Sunlight, when filtered through these carefully oriented spaces, would not simply illuminate, but interact. Like a tuning fork for the soul, or a key sliding into a genetic lock, these beams may have activated dormant codes within the human genome. Could it be that E-babbar was a place where DNA met divinity, where genetic instructions were whispered through sunlight into those deemed ready? The idea of ancient temples as biological resonators is not confined to Larsa. Structures like Stonehenge and Göbekli Tepe, though separated by continents and millennia, share startling similarities. Alignment with solstices and stellar events, circular or radial construction, and mysterious engravings that seem less decorative than instructive. These were not primitive monuments, but machines of light and stone, calibrated to celestial rhythms, and perhaps designed to transmit or receive information. At Larsa, where Shamash's presence bathed the temple in precisely filtered light, the resonance may have been even more targeted. Not only did the structure receive sunlight, it processed it, splitting, shaping, and directing it toward the human body like an ancient projector of consciousness. The altar may well have been a receptor station, not for sacrifice, but for synchronization between man and the heavens. But the mystery deepens with the Akkadian prophetic tablets, which speak in cryptic tones of a time when the light shall lose its path, and the archives shall open from below. These ominous phrases, often ignored by mainstream historians, may not be metaphorical at all. Light losing its path could refer to disruptions in the sun's electromagnetic field, or the disalignment of Earth's energetic grid, a warning of a coming shift in vibrational equilibrium. And opening the archive may well indicate the activation of long-dormant knowledge, either within ancient structures like Larsa or within the human genome itself. The astronomical symbols on these tablets, eclipses, conjunctions, solar zeniths, may mark portals in time, moments when celestial mechanics unlock terrestrial codes. These aren't prophecies in the poetic sense. They're protocols, encrypted by a civilization that understood the biological implications of solar harmonics. And so the sunlight that once fell upon the stones of Larsa may have been more than warmth or brightness. It may have been a divine transmission, a call to awakening, one that encoded new possibilities into the blood of those who stood within its beam. In our own age, where solar activity intensifies and forgotten frequencies reemerge, we must ask, is the Temple of Light preparing to speak again? And more importantly, do we still have the spiritual circuitry to hear it?